The TVA seems to exist in a place out of time. I mean, they use Infinity Stones as paperweights, and Mobius has said that time works differently where they're at. Where have we heard that before? That's right, by Scott when describing the quantum realm as he was munching on Black Widow's sandwich.
Time works differently in the quantum realm.
Could the TVA actually be in the quantum realm? Given the evidence, that's actually highly likely. Let's discuss more right now. So by now we're all pretty familiar with the TVA, at least the general gist, right? I mean, the Time Variance Authority has thrown around a lot of big concepts regarding what they do and how they operate, and I just smile and nod along and just generally go with it. Explaining time travel and concepts dealing with the warping and manipulation of time is always going to be a tricky subject, even if it's coming from Owen Wilson's mustachioed face. But one thing has been made abundantly clear in the early episodes of Loki: time definitely works differently in the TVA, and given all their advanced technology and capabilities, it's pretty clear they aren't just in some backlot Amazon warehouse somewhere in the Midwest. No, they're in a very specific location where the rules of time don't necessarily apply. Now, in the comics, the TVA exists in the null time zone, a place that exists outside of time. But here's the genius of the MCU. They've always been known to combine certain elements to make them a bit easier for general audiences to grasp. Ego, the living planet, was made to be Peter Quill's father. Hulk got his own mini-Hulk storyline in Ragnarok. Tony and Bruce created Ultron instead of Hank Pym, etc. So why would the MCU introduce the null time zone when they already have a place where the rules of time work differently? Yes, I think it makes a lot of sense for the TVA to exist within the quantum realm, and it opens up a ton of opportunities for the future. Because from what we've seen of the TVA, they're able to travel to any point in time on the timeline, no problem. What if they use a more advanced version of the time travel mechanics the Avengers used in Endgame? I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility. The TVA seems to walk through yellow portals whenever they time travel, and if you squint, that color scheme is somewhat similar to what the Avengers went through when they started their grand adventure through time. And if it is the same type of time travel used both in Endgame and the TVA, that could be a bit of an explanation for why the TVA was so cool with the Avengers traveling through time and changing everything. Sure, they hand-waved that issue away with the whole "they did what they were supposed to do" way of logic, but wouldn't it make more sense knowing the Avengers just did exactly what the TVA usually does, and that helped them not cause ripples? So where does Ant-Man fit into all this? Well, he probably fits in anywhere. That's sort of his thing, isn't it? Anyways, I think this theory of the TVA operating within the quantum realm makes even more sense given what we know about the upcoming Ant-Man Quantumania. The only really major thing we know about the movie is that Jonathan Majors will be playing Kang the Conqueror, and that's huge news. Kang the Conqueror has the potential to be the new big bad of the entire MCU for years to come, so that's why people were a little surprised when he was announced to be a part of Ant-Man's movie. I mean, no offense at all to the Ant-Man movies, but they've always been the more fun, less money-earning movies of the MCU. And I personally think Kevin Feige took that as a major challenge. Oh, I bet he said something like, "Oh, the first Ant-Man didn't gross a lot? Well, we're gonna make the sequel the first movie after Infinity War, and you're gonna need to see it in order to understand the basics of Endgame." And now it's more like, "Oh, you want to see the next big villain of the MCU? Go watch Ant-Man 3. It's either that or Kevin Feige is just a huge fan of Paul Rudd, which, you know, we all are.
I'm gonna make some tea.
A lot of people wondered at first how Kang's inclusion would work, but if we operate under the assumption that the TVA is in the quantum realm, then everything just sort of clicks into place. Kang is directly tied to the Timekeepers in the comics, and with all the hints we've gotten in Loki, there's a good chance that Kang will at least be directly referenced by the end of the show, if not have a full appearance. Though I'm not getting my hopes up about an appearance since the whole Mephisto-WandaVision thing. But hey, who knows? Anything can happen. And you know what this means? Ant-Man and the TVA might interact sometime in the near future. I know it's too much to ask, but what are the chances that the TVA helped get Ant-Man in the right spot in order to return from his quantum realm trip in Endgame? Yeah, I know he had his return harness on, and the rat is what really helped Scott get back, but we didn't get to see Scott's 5 hours floating around in the quantum realm. What if we saw a flashback of Scott's time when he makes out a hazy outline of TVA headquarters? Or perhaps, more hilariously, what if there's a scene where Loki and Mobius are together and they see Ant-Man floating around somewhere nearby, and Mobius Mobius tells Loki to ignore it because that's supposed to happen. Okay, I'm reaching a bit there, but I'm just saying with everything that's happening, there's a very real possibility that Ant-Man's team and the TVA are going to come into official contact very soon. It would be a way to bridge the gap between the TV world and the big screen, as the Ant-Man movies have always been the more science-based comic hub. So the TVA would fit in much better with that aesthetic than, say, the Thor or Captain America franchise, don't you think?
You're right. I do, Captain America.
I never knew I wanted Tom Hiddleston and Paul Rudd to interact on screen as much as I do at this moment. I think their chemistry would be absolutely through the roof, don't you? Give them a scene together, Marvel, please.